Hello, everyone, and welcome back to A CannaChef's Life. I'm your host, Alex Giuliano, and today with me, I have a very special guest. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Renee Ciccarelli, and you can call me Chef Renee.
Awesome. Now, I like to start with the chef's background when it comes to cooking. So if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and tell us where you started as a chef. How did it start for you?
That's a great question. I started as a CannaChef when I was a caregiver for terminally ill patients. So this could be anybody who was in a hospice that was kind of in and out of therapy, who could not physically smoke cannabis. And before it became medicinal, there weren't other ways to consume it other than either smoking it or eating it. So some of the patients that I would give care for were avid smokers who had to be consumers. So I started taking their marijuana product and turning it into edibles that they can slowly dose themselves with to help them ease any of their pains or complications. So I've been doing this for about 10 years with infusing marijuana into food.
Okay. Now, did you start kind of as a chef before when it came to cooking, or was the cooking and the cannabis kind of at the same time?
I became a chef before I became a CannaChef. So I obviously was really into marijuana, and I ended up having twins at a young age in high school. So I was always interested in cooking, and I felt that that was my avenue. So I started competitively cooking, going from place to place competitively, throwing my name in the ring and trying to win awards, which got me the reputation to open my own restaurant. So before I became a CannaChef full-time like I am now, I owned and operated a Hawaiian cafe in Alaska. And we did that for 4 or 5 years. And in 2015, we decided to close the doors, and I wanted to pursue an education in business and marketing. So to answer the question, it's been great. I really enjoyed doing it. I started out just going place to place and offering personal instructions to people. I used to do a class called Pint Size, where I take children and their parents on Saturday mornings for an hour, and I teach them how to cook a dish. And their entry was 2 cans of food that would get donated to the local food bank. So I did it, just out of the kindness of my heart. Good practice, gave me the exposure, and it was fun for everyone, fun for the kids and the parents. A lot of compliments that kids would normally never eat what they made unless they got to do it themselves, and that was the purpose of the class. So it didn't really come together until just recently when I met with Brooksy and the CannaChef Union is when I started to infusing both my careers as a chef and in the cannabis industry.
Okay. Now, you said you had a Hawaiian restaurant in Alaska.
Correct. Yes.
Tell us a little bit more about how that came to be. There's got to be a story there.
There always is a story. So I did competitive cooking at the local Alaskan State Fair, which is about the only time that a lot of us can get together is in the summer, because the hours are 24-hour daylight. And so we had a little bit longer time to spend. So with the Alaska State Fair, they would do 2 or 3 competitive events every season, so every September. And so I would enter 2 or 3 of them, like the grill and chill cook-off and the spam, national spam recipe cook-off. So I just started getting out there and competing and winning several People's Choice Awards. And after 2 or 3 years of doing that, I gained the reputation to open my own cafe. We did go in a partnership with a person who had a much larger restaurant at the time, and he allowed me to use his beer and wine license. So he helped me get my start. And we called it Pure Aloha, which means, pure love. Everything was made from scratch by these hands here, feeding thousands and thousands of plates a week. And a lot of the work was my husband and I, and maybe one or two other people. Definitely had a tropical and Pacific rim kind of flair to it. Being in Alaska, we have a huge demographic of Samoans and Pacific Islanders, and the fishing boats draw a lot of those nationalities. So their food really affected our environment in Alaska. We were not only eating salmon and scallops and fresh crab, but we're also eating sweet sour stuff and infusing mangoes and a lot of tropical stuff to our meals. And so there became a demand for Hawaiian food in Alaska. And where I lived, we were about an hour away from Anchorage. There weren't very many restaurants in Wasilla, Alaska. So I felt that was a good opportunity to take a step out and give it a shot. We opened with, I think, $5,000 in our pocket to get started. And within a year, we had grossed about 100,000. Mind you, the facility or the place that we were cooking out of could only seat maybe 20 people at a time. So there was a lot of work to it. So we've moved one or two locations till we finally landed the government contract where we facilitated their cafe. So we were responsible for operating their cafeteria, providing them salad bars, meals, a daily soup, and a daily special. And winning that at 25 with just competitive food reputation. I'm classically trained. I've participated in culinary programs before. I wouldn't say I've been a dropout. I never enrolled in a culinary school, but my training is classical and through professionals. So I felt, okay, well, that was a good time to do it. My twins had entered public school. Like, well, why the hell not, right? So it took off from there. We ended up doing catering after that, and then doing all of the college brunches or governor's meals or dean's events. We do masquerade parties, and we did a launch for their new amphitheater when that opened as well. So just as soon as I get myself into cooking, I always find just going full speed, having to put the running shoes on and hitting the ground at full speed. It hasn't stopped.
Nice. Now, and that's quite an impressive background as it comes to a chef. I'm curious on your background with cannabis, long-time smoker, but how much have you studied into it, or what how deep into the science of cannabis are you, out of curiosity?
I greatly appreciate the question. So when I first started back about 10 years ago, I did a lot of just research federally. There wasn't a lot of information that was helpful to allow something like this. I had originally planned up of a pre-made meals that you can just purchase in bulk and have. And so it just didn't seem like the laws and things were catching up or were at the level that we needed to be. So when I left Alaska, I moved to Arizona, and it's a medicinal state. And you do gain a lot of training because they treat it like medicine here. So there's a lot of education that comes with it. I've been doing this for 3 years. So when I first got into the industry, I was selling CBD door to door. And I talked myself into a dispensary agent position at the first dispensary that I worked at. When you work in the dispensaries, the managers make sure that you get the most education that you can regarding the products that you're cooking or you're consuming or you're telling patients about. So we spent a lot of time sitting with vendors and listening to them talk about their products and how they were made. I also took a cannabis a cannabis certification. It was the basics of the industry, but it went in depth in DA etiquette, dispensary agent etiquette. It went into your cannabinoid system, where we recept a lot of this THC, CBG, CBN, CBD stuff, THCA, all of those. So we get taught these things by just working eventually in the industry, which I'm really blessed for. I'm also somebody who likes to do a lot of research, and I go to the source to get the information that I possibly can. And the certification was really, really helpful. It allowed myself to land a job. I felt very educated and prepared getting in the industry. I hear stories where people say, oh, it's taken me 2-3 years to get in. It took me 3 months. Just hitting the pavement, passing out the dispensary resumes. Until recently, there's a couple of individuals that I actually sought out, and she became my mentor at the dispensary that I had moved to just recently. And this mentor is known as the green goddess of the industry, at least for Arizona. Been fighting on the forefront about legalization and food grade things, making sure that our edibles are up to food code, how people are consuming. She spends a lot of her time educating the public and offering these classes for free to people to learn about how to medicate with cannabis appropriately. And we can all smoke. I'm a habitual smoker, but it's very helpful to know what you're smoking so you're not wasting a lot of money and time.
With your current career now, you're currently a bud tender?
I am a brand ambassador, as well as a receptionist at a dispensary. I formerly was a dispensary agent, but I took a position to become a brand ambassador at the new company that I'm at.
Okay, awesome. Now, with your current chef career, on top of what you've got going now, can you kind of describe exactly how you've got your own personal business structured?
That's a wonderful question. So with my schedule at work, I make this my side hustle. And anytime that I take a order or a group or a party, it normally works around the times that I'm not at the dispensary. How this has worked for me? Well, once my own employment has seen me successful parties and do podcasts and use their product to do so, I've had a bit more time to work on my career as a CannaChef, as well as be sponsored to use good organic product for people to consume. So the balance that I have is, you got to have structure. I spend at least 40 to 60 hours with my brand ambassading. And then I try to make 10 to 20 hours of just CannaChef. And that will involve filming, creating content, where we will come up with 3 recipes and cook them from beginning to end with the prep involved. Use that to go ahead and promote on our YouTubes, our Instagram pages, and then as well as the podcast that I'm on. The way that my week goes is the patients that book my services are quite random, but I do try to coordinate them on days that I'm not working. There are times where we have to pull extra shifts. I work 2 12-hour days the beginning of the week, and then the rest of the week is half days. So I really tried to put 2 or 3 hours into my business, Totally High Culinary, and being a CannaChef, whether that's advertising, marketing, purchasing product, picking out recipes. There's a lot that goes into it, and not just having the skill and being a chef, but also trying to provide the right product for a patient and making sure that they have a great experience at the same time. So it's a lot. There's a lot that goes into it. It's not for people who are procrastinators or who are lazy. To be a CannaChef, you have to be flexible. You definitely have to be resilient, and you have to stay motivated. although this is my side hustle, I make sure that I put a couple hours every day into the business to connect and to meet people, and then ensure that the business is still going. Right now I have sweepstakes. I may not be doing too much out in the public with COVID, but with the sweepstakes, it allows people to get the exposure. I get the exposure that way, and then they get a free meal from me if they win, and then I get to network and educate at the same time. So being a CannaChef has really changed the game for me. It's allowed me to be my own chef. I don't have somebody above me telling me what to do or when to work. I make it work for me.
Nice. Yeah, it's always tricky when you're balancing, particularly when you've got the main job and then the side hustle. What is your, I guess I don't want to say end goal, but what's your 5-year goal with your CannaChef career?
That's a great question. I actually sat down and typed this out when I developed my business plan in March. And my end goal is to become the Rachel Ray of the marijuana industry, if not just in Arizona, but nationally. I believe personality, the networking, and being able to cook and educate people will allow me to reach a higher platform where I can reach more people and educate and influence and motivate more people. As a business wise, financially, everybody wants to be successful. I really do this for fun. I do this as a hobby. If I did it for a job, I probably wouldn't enjoy it as much.
That'd be an interesting show if you were to put together a food truck and take that on the road and go to different locales and create a dish that's special to that locale using bud grown from that locale, kind of a homage to each local area that you went to. And just if you filmed that kind of journey, that might be something that you could sell to a network to kind of start that personality.
I'm glad that you mentioned that. I actually have a group that's willing to work with me. We're looking at the legalities of going place to place, especially in different states where it is legal. We just want to make sure the cannabis aspect is not much of a concern when you're in a recreational or medicinal state. The concern is the certifications and the licensing you have to have that the food industry requires you to have. So having both of those is definitely a plus. So I'm really excited because that's actually something we're working on, is trying to go place to place, state to state, festival to festival, and just open the trunk and go. That would be living the dream as well.
Oh yeah, no, I've often thought about that kind of thing for a show, is just really delving into the local side of things. And it's funny, I never even, being more of a tech guy, I never even thought about the rules as it relates to handling food from state to state. Kind of makes me think about that movie Chef with John Favreau when he's driving that food truck from Florida all the way back out. It's like, I think they just kind of skipped right over the whole legality of food licensing and food handling in each state.
Especially with the development of edibles, we've noticed there's not as much testing as they do for the food products that you can buy on the shelf at any grocery store. So why are we developing products that don't meet those standards? So I really pride myself on the education on the culinary side, not only the cannabis, but the culinary, because that's what's going to be regulated the most.
Right.
Yeah, just making sure that you're safely creating meals and that you're safely dosing people is definitely my philosophy. But that is something that is important. You have to make sure you're being safe when it comes to edibles.
Oh, 100%. Safety is key with anything, and I hate to call it an intoxicant, but a medication or anything like alcohol or even some of the pharmaceutically prescribed things. Dosage is extremely important. And that's one of the things that sometimes bothers me about the cannabis industry, is the leniency when it comes to packaging. It's not held to the same standard that the pharmaceutical industry is held to. Like, they can't give you a 100 milligram Tylenol, and it's really only 75 milligrams because there's a 25% leniency on packaging. Like that's
Correct.
they
And
can't
then
have it
your
in
ingredients.
pharmaceuticals. Yeah, it's
The ingredients, I think, when everyone started to go organic and holistic, that brought that food industry to a whole nother level where they're like, okay, now people are concerned about what's going in their product. Here in Arizona, we're making it a point to test everything. So you cannot put just any type of product on the market that doesn't give the best description. So a lot of the products that we see coming out now tell you what's in there. Their ingredients are listed. They'll even put the strain that was used in the product as well, and the milligram size. Arizona is very on point when they come to the regulation for the state. And since we are trying to vote it recreational, they've made quite a few changes to bring the awareness of the industry to more of a compliant level, where we're not just having a bunch of shops just pop up open everywhere and then they're doing it this way. They want to get a handle on it before we do go recreational and things do get out of hand. That's what they really want to do. Just trying to make sure everyone's safely consuming, and the product that they're consuming, they know what's in it.
Right. It's extremely important, especially when it comes to edibles, because of food allergies and things that need to be taken into account. It's a whole other animal.
When I when I interview my patients who call for me to prepare their meals, I do an extensive interview with them, about 30 to 45 minutes of Q&A, really engaging, just the same way I would do with a patient inside the dispensary who came to purchase flour from me or a product from me. I just want to eliminate any chances of them, or reducing the chances of them having a poor experience because they believe that they could tolerate it, or because somebody gave them something and they did it so they can do this. It's way different when it comes to your friend's brownie, and then you preparing it for a friend or for a paying person, because you have to guarantee, one, the experience and the potency, and then two, again, how you're safely preparing their product.
Right. Now, in regards to over-serving, let's call it over-serving for purposes of this, do you have any methods for helping relieve anxiety or bring down somebody who's been overserved?
Yeah. Normally we ask them, of course, get comfortable. You're not going to die. You just need to breathe. We try to, a lot of them end up breaking out in like a cold, hot sweat. So giving them, cooling them off on their heads or on their chest or their neck to kind of bring their temperature down, because you're you're increasing your blood flow, your blood circulation, which is giving you that heightened sense of anxiety. And you kind of get a placebo effect when you tell people how many milligrams are in their meal before they even eat it. So some of these patients who are consuming these meals are already getting anxious before you even give them a milligram. So for over serving, we always go low and slow, and we always observe our patients and see how they're feeling. We always keep an eye on which ones look like they're getting a little too quiet or looking a little freaked out. Mostly just somewhere comfortable, kind of quiet, unstimulating. Compression helps, being wrapped up, a cool cloth, lots of water. I have heard people take a cold shower. I wouldn't always recommend it, because that also accelerates your heart rate, which could also make you feel like you want to pass out. There's also products out there that you could use when you do what I do. I won't say the name of it, but it pretty much just resets your tolerance, but it helps you cope with the medicine so you're not feeling too high or too depressed. What else do I do? CBD. Yes. I like to counteract any THC negative reaction with a high level of CBD.
Absolutely.
It slows the central nervous down, so it's actually flipping your THC. It's an antipsychotic and an antipsychoactive. So you're not getting any of these extra senses. If anything, you're losing the tension and the grinding and the freak out that you're having. You're now feeling calm. A lot of people are under the impression that CBD is something that you actually feel. Yes, I would say you would feel it, but not in the way that you believe. Though it's not like, okay, you're going to take a hit and you instantly feel a head change and a body change. But when you consume CBD, especially if you do it frequently, not just one day or another day, it can help counteract any negative reaction that you could have with THC. In fact, I like to take ratios. So I'll take a higher THC ratio with the low CBD ratio, where I can get all of the pain relieving effects and the functionality without getting the psychoactive change and feeling like a heightened sense of anxiety or feeling suppressed by any means. I also like one-to-ones as well. That's a great ratio for anyone just starting out with THC, especially those who haven't had THC before and are just trying it out. I always recommend trying some CBD with the product to help counteract maybe some bad reactions that they could have with flower or cannabis.
Right. Now, on the topic of the actual infusion itself, when it comes to creating a product, do you have a particular base ingredient you prefer to infuse?
I do. A lot of people like to infuse oils, but I use straight cannabinoid terpenes. So that this is not food grade. There's no flavor. There's no additives. It's pure flower terpenes. Most people like to go shopping, and when they shop for THC content. We try to educate them that it's actually the terpenes that make a difference in the effects and the ailments and the conditions that you're suffering from. So when I cook, I don't normally like to use infused product. One reason is, the first, if you heat it over a certain temperature, you lose its flavor and its potency and its consistency and color. So you've just altered that product that was probably just fine doing it sublingually or putting it on top of a piece of bread or something. You've now diluted it or you've changed the structure. Let's see. The second reason why I like to use just regular cannabinoid terpenes is because your endocannabinoid system reacts to these terpenes for a reason. So the reason you're doing your indicas are because there's terpenes in there that give you that effect, that help you mellow yourself out, or in some instances even help you get sleep if you have trouble sleeping. So I actually just take a vial of terpenes, straight cannabinoid terpenes, straight strain specific on top of that as well. I like strain specific because there's a certain aroma and taste, just like your wine when it comes to terpenes. And it's so flavorful and mouth-watering. It's way better for your body. We haven't done enough studies on food grade terpenes to be putting them in distillate cartridges or smoking them and dabbing them. So I'm a bit cautious, and I am not trying to promote any of this, but I'm just cautious when it comes to food grade things, and it's not been researched as much, where we're hearing people having trouble with, their lungs or coughing too much. That's what you have to be concerned about. What's in that product that's making you have that reaction? So I tend to stick with just terpenes. My backup would be an infused oil, olive oil, coconut oil, MCT oil. You have to have a fat for your body to absorb it, and without some form of fat, you're not going to get the full effect, if not absorb any at all. So I like to put it in things like butter. I even like to infuse it in sugar and butter and make candies out of that. there's a lot of different ways, but my favorite is just using the straight terpenes. And you can squeeze the terpenes and measure each one individually, so you can therefore dose each product easily, and you know approximately how much you have per piece or per unit. And these you don't want to cook, food grade terpenes, excuse me, most people cook with, but with cannabinoid terpenes, you really don't want to get it over 100 degrees, or again, we start to experience the different smell or taste. So once I bring a product out of the oven or from cooking, I'll let it cool for a minute or two, and then I will individually drop terpenes onto each piece for more accurate dosing. Yeah.
Nice. Now, and one of the reasons I love this show is being able to interview so many intelligent chefs on all the different aspects of cannabis and cooking. You've got so much wisdom behind you. If you wouldn't mind, what would you recommend for people just getting started as a cannabis chef?
I love that question. Have the drive. It's not easy. We've all been in the cooking industry, and it's very competitive. It's very cutthroat. And then you're adding the cannabis industry, which is also very competitive and very cutthroat. So you just have to maintain the drive. Don't worry about what everyone else is doing. Just do you. Trust your talent, trust your expertise, trust your networking. If you need help, always seek out the people you believe know more or know as what you need to know. I do a lot of researching and going after people who I believe are great leaders in the industry, and I pick their brains. I talk to doctors, lawyers, and attorneys for the same reason, because it gives me that drive. It makes me want to do this. For people starting out, it doesn't cost much to become a Canna chef. I learned that quite recently. I didn't need much to put a meal together and to have it prepared for someone. Because we're contracted and we're a service, it's very easy to go place to place. So just having the flexibility and the patience to stick with it and continue the drive, especially during these times, I say you'll come ahead, you'll make it. I have had nothing but success since I brought cooking back in my life. Cooking has always been pleasurable to me. I've always had fun doing it. By chance, I'm pretty good at it, so it makes me happy that I can infuse two of my favorite things in my life into one career, and it's not a stigma anymore. It's allowed in multiple states. So if you're just starting out, just have the drive, find the right team of people to support you. I found it. Hire CannaChef has definitely been the best thing that's happened to me. I've gotten the most exposure, and I've made the most money, with you folks. So take your pictures, do your filming, take the time. I'm working 30 hours at least for every shift that I do in my life. I work 3 to 4 different things. You can do it. Just stop making the excuses, have the drive, and get it done. I feel that's what's kept me going. I have actually come ahead of COVID because of this. I am still allowed to go and meet with people. I'm allowed to cook and educate for them. So, and I can even medicate, which is even cooler. So if you're just starting out, it doesn't take much money. It doesn't take, at first, a lot of time. Just believe in yourself and continue the drive.
Now, I've got one more question for you, and it's a little selfish. As one of the owners of the union, what could we do better to help you in your career?
That's a wonderful question. And to be honest, it really falls on us chefs, because you folks already provide so much. And that's a very truthful answer. Going to your website, you're offering opportunities to gain sponsorships. And these sponsorships aren't just like, oh, here, we're going to give you free product. It's about creating content, logos. You have people interested in edible lines doing shows with you. With COVID, I just getting the marketing and the exposure out, doing exactly what you're doing right now, allowing us chefs to have a chance to talk and share some information with patients and get to know, our followers and our people. Honestly, there isn't much more I'd ask you folks to do. It really falls on us and myself to take advantage of what you folks have already offered.
Well, thank you so much for your time tonight. It's been a very fantastic interview. Do you have any parting words? You want to go ahead and plug your social media and anything?
I certainly do. Thank you for joining me. Again, my name is Chef Renee. I am with Totally High Culinary. You can hire me through Hire CannaChef or the CC Union. I believe it's .org.
Yep, .org.
.org. And I am on a podcast every Saturday with Peace and Riot. I will be having my own show coming out shortly. So just stay tuned. You can follow my Nene Tokes page on Instagram for all the details. You can ask me questions. You can send me messages, whatever you'd like. I'm pretty attentive, and I'm excited to meet you. I can't wait.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time tonight. Hopefully we'll have you back on here for another follow-up interview to see how things are going, maybe 6 months to a year from now.
Perfect. I greatly appreciate the opportunity, guys. It's been nothing but great times working for the union, and I greatly appreciate everything that you've done for me this far.
Well, absolutely. And if you ever feel there's anything else we can do for you, if you ever need anything, please feel free to reach out. We're always available.
Certainly. I certainly will. Thank you, folks.
Absolutely. Well, have a great night.
You do too. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Bye.
Bye.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of A CannaChef's Life. I'm your host, Alex Giuliano. For more episodes, please check out our YouTube page. If you have any interest in joining the union or sponsoring the union, or if you're just looking to hire a cannabis chef near you, please visit us at ccunion.org. That's ccunion.org. Thanks so much for watching.